The number one best way to easily lower blood sugar and lose weight. Insulin resistance. Arguably the largest health problem in all of the land. Second behind that is fatty liver and liver disease. And the two go hand in hand. And we're going to talk today how you can reverse insulin resistance and cleanse your liver to get you on that proper path. We're going to talk about the best way to lower blood sugar. Give the simplest eating plan to get you there fast. Numbers could be high. You could be diagnosed with a blood sugar condition. Now, if it's a type 1 condition, obviously there's some limitations. There's always room for improvement. So we can take less toxins and have a better lifestyle. If you are not diagnosed with something with blood sugar, the reason it matters so much because it's the primary driver of you being a sugar burner when it is out of control versus a fat burner. And if I had to guess, would you like to be number one, a sugar burner, or number two, a fat burner? Most everyone's going to pick a fat burner. We do need sugar to live. We do need sugar to thrive. It's the preferred fuel source in the body. We have just radically overdone it. Look at this study right out of my backyard, Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Pulling off the study, I got a lot of prominent universities, UNC Chapel Hill. Only 12% of American adults are metabolically healthy. Another way to say that is 88% of the population is insulin resistance. 88%. So under the sound of my voice right now, one of us maybe makes it out with not being insulin resistant. So these kind of studies concern me. We've known this for years, but where are the doctors stepping up instead of just doing an injection, instead of just doing a pill, instead of just diagnosing, leading through simple changes, as you're about to see, the easiest way to get this under control, shed the pounds for normal blood pressure. What is normal blood pressure? It's a good question to start with. So let's go to the chart here so you can see this, and it actually will get broken down a little bit easier. Here's the blood sugar level chart. Now, on this, we have our normals. And over a 3-month period of time, I put on this chart the A1C level, which is going to be a little bit longer measurement of where your blood sugar is, and then your actual blood glucose. When we're in a fasting state, you're going to roll somewhere around 80 to 100. And then that A1C level is going to be between 4 and 5.5. Now, I would say that those are actually a little bit high. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. After a meal, you're shooting up. It's nearly doubling or more. And then 2 to 3 hours after the meal, your body has to respond. This is a key moment right here that I want you to not overlook. That 2 to 3 hours after the meal, the body figures out how to bring this from 170 over 200 back down to 120 over 40. Now, if you are elevated, you're going to be riding a lot of the times 100 to 125. Now, sometimes this can happen just in the morning as you're waking up. Cortisol hits a little bit, some changes, kind of has your system's getting going a little bit. So it's not uncommon to have a little bit of spike in the morning. However, when it is elevated, you are consistently running over 100. This is a very simple key number you can be measuring regularly. When you're elevated and you double that, you're running at 200 after a meal. And then at 2 to 3 hours after a meal, you're in the 150s. So you're spending a majority of your day, if you're eating 2, 3, 4, 5 snacks late night, you're constantly putting that into the 200s and settling into the 150s. We spend very little time then in a normal range. And then when it's very high, you're getting up and over the 200s, dangerous levels, medical attention needed. This is an area we don't want anyone to be in. Now, A1C over time is going to sort of give you the longer term picture of 5.7 to 6.5 as you're elevated. If you're getting above 6.5, which unfortunately as a doctor, I see people over and over and over again who are at this state. And what this signifies from an A1C level is that you are insulin resistant way more than the normal population. Because remember, 88% of us are insulin resistant, so you're way more than the normal population. Now, where I would disagree a little bit is that we're saying normal, and I always have, if you follow Dr. Livingood, some issues with the normals of cholesterol, normals of blood pressure, because there's a lot of incentive for drug companies to push the boardrooms and the committees that make up these numbers to get them as low or as favorable as possible so they can prescribe. That's when you take osteoporosis numbers, for example, that shifted a little over a decade ago. Overnight, around 10 million people were now considered osteoporotic, went to bed normal, woke up the next morning because the committee shifted a number and now they have osteoporosis. The same thing has occurred with cholesterol when they changed the numbers and lowered what normal LDLs and total LDLs were. Overnight, 34 million people could now be prescribed a cholesterol medication. So there's some shadiness with it. With this one, we're just allowing a little bit too much wiggle room. And if we could hold a little bit stronger, we would be leading with a lifestyle approach that says, hey, I know it says 80 to 100, but let's make sure we're getting down below 100. And if you're sitting in the 70 range, that might actually prove to be even healthier. Now, if you're fasting, like I am at the time of recording this, I'm gonna be sitting maybe in the more 50, 60 range, okay? Now, I'm not gonna stay there long time, right? My body still needs it, and my body is responding. It's producing ketones, it's breaking down fat for energy, and I want some of that, but some of my cortisol levels are gonna go up slightly in order to execute it. So I'm not gonna stay there forever. I'm not gonna be on some specific diets for really long periods of time. Keto, carnivore, this is the issue that you're kind of stressing the system. It likes to efficiently run off of sugars, just need the right ones. And I'm gonna show you exactly how to easily get these out and then transition back into the ones that you should be eating in just a moment. Now, blood sugar levels. We got a normal, we got an elevated, we got a high. Let's talk about simply what's creating this. And it kind of seems like an obvious question, but hang with me for a second. So what causes it? So when we look at the types of carbohydrates, we've got two different ones that we're really gonna focus on. And the more processed any type of carbohydrate is, the absolute worst. So we have carbohydrates being the number one culprit, the number one food. Two different types that we wanna look at. We wanna look at carbs, more of the starch form, breads, grains, pastas, potatoes, those forms. And then we have actual sugar, also known as sucrose, more of its chemical name. With carbohydrates, mostly comprised of starch. These are bad when eaten in too much, especially when they're highly processed and stripped of their fibers on the blood sugar levels, but the little advantage that they have going for them is they are just pure glucose. So we have a couple different molecules of types of sugar, and if you've read my book before, it's anything ending in OSE. The only exceptions to that would be cellulose, which is fiber, and allulose, which is not even a form of sugar, it's an all-sugar alternative. But in this case, we're looking at glucose, and we're looking at sucrose. Glucose is diamond-shaped, and fructose is house-shaped. Those two molecules put together make up sucrose, which is sugar. Now, interesting though, starch is just all diamonds. It's pure glucose, which means the second it hits your body, it's very easy for the body to break down quickly. Now that's bad news for your blood sugar levels because it's going to spike rapidly. In 4 seconds of putting the pasta, the potatoes, the bread inside of your mouth, your body is going to release what's called amylase, which is the enzyme that starts to break that starch and that carbohydrate down, and you're already getting the hit of the drug that is carbohydrates into the system. That will rapidly spike blood sugar levels, and the more processed and the more white the carbohydrate is, think Wonder Bread, which I have a great video on Wonder Bread. If you'd really like to check it out, you can look at the one on the whole seed bread, and I broke down Wonder Bread, I broke down some clips of Wonder Bread, I broke down Texas toast as well. And these are extremely white, extremely processed, which means the shell of the seed, the fiber of the seed, the nutrients in seed has been stripped back, and we're just left with the starchy, sugary part. The more that the pasta, the bread, and the grain is that, the faster the blood sugar level is gonna spike. So that's why those foods need to be removed in order to go that direction. We're gonna talk about that in a moment, but 4 seconds, right? So carb type number 1 is starch. It's bad, but there is a worse scenario in a moment, because starch is just pure diamond shaped. It's just a bunch of diamonds linked together, and that's what forms the chain that is pure glucose. The second type of sugar that's worse is what we know as actual table sugar, also called sucrose. There's another OSE. Now, sucrose is diamonds and house shapes. So the two of these have to bind together, and that's what makes one molecule of sucrose. So glucose and fructose combined together. Why does this matter? Well, this can't be broken down in the mouth. Amylase, the enzyme I just talked about that breaks down the starches as soon as you put them into your body, starts to break it down immediately, can't break down the sugar immediately. So when there's extra cane sugar, when there's extra molasses or whatever, a couple hundred names of sugar now, this sucrose molecule, 50% glucose, 50% fructose, can only be broken down in the liver. Whoa. So it has to make its way through the body. It can't be instantly used by any organ along the way. When you have just glucose, organs, tissues, muscles can just grab that glucose at any point. Doesn't need any special access. It's just free to grab it and use it. So that glucose gets used up a little quicker. But when it comes to sugar and fructose, it's got to go all the way to the liver to be fully processed. So it makes sugar, sucrose, worse than starch. It makes pure sugar worse than carbohydrates because only one organ can process it. And it's the hardest working organ in your body, the liver. Now it gets even worse when man takes that concept of sugar and then creates high fructose corn syrup, high fructose sugar. So now instead of having a 50-50 split between glucose and fructose, we have like a 60-40. Let's increase the amount of fructose in there. Now, why does that matter? This is what makes high fructose corn syrup one of the worst substances on the planet for your liver, because there's so much more fructose, which can only be broken down and used for energy in the liver. It is said that you can drink or eat high fructose corn syrup and you're okay. But if you were to inject it straight into your veins, you would have a massive problem, or it could even be life-threatening. Why would that be? Because it has to get to the liver to even be processed. So that is why it is driving so much of the insulin resistance, because high fructose corn syrup is found in so many different drinks and foods that we eat. Now, along those lines, fruit and agave nectar do contain a lot of fructose molecules. The difference being there's a lot of fiber that comes with it. So the type of carbohydrate that you eat matters greatly. You have something with it the way God made it to offset the impact it's going to have in the body. And for that reason, I'm kind of out on agave nectar because it is so high in fructose. That means agave can only be processed by the liver. And most of us, including myself, don't need any extra strain going on the liver. So food group number one, carbohydrates and those sugars. Number two, proteins. So sugar and carbohydrates are going to spike blood sugar level the most, okay? So they're gonna be up here. And then next we have protein is still gonna have a hit on the amount of damage and the amount of processing in blood sugar. And then fat is gonna be down here even lower. So we're gonna look at our other two food groups. Now the reason protein still has a hit when it comes to blood sugar levels is because the body has a backup mechanism where if you get too much excess protein and it's like the muscles are full, I don't have to repair any tissues, we're not needing extra protein at the moment, it can convert the protein into glucose. Now this is another issue if there's too much extended periods of time on a carnivore diet or on way too much fasting. Your body's going to go into starvation mode, and it will start grabbing the proteins of the body, aka the muscle, and start using that to produce glucose. It's the most efficient way to burn. It's what the brain desires the most. And so the body has a backup mechanism to do that. Now, why this matters to you, when I teach, the simple way to eat is that if you're overdoing protein, sometimes that can not be a good thing because excess does turn to some sugar. The main focus is clean protein and just enough of it, but we don't need to necessarily overdo it. Now, when we look at number three, which was fat, very little impact because there isn't any glucose molecules to process. So having fat while you're trying to get the pounds off, lowering the blood sugar levels, putting in healthy forms, the body will produce clean energy with that, and it burns much more clean. And it doesn't have to involve heavy reliance on the liver. So what causes high blood sugar? We've got the carbohydrates, two different forms. We've got protein that has an impact. Fat, very little, number three. Number four is just pure insulin resistance. This now is a problem when you are adding in those carbohydrates, eating too many packaged foods, crackers, breads, grains, pastas, drinks, sports drinks, sodas. Then we're putting in pure sugar as well. And the body is getting this huge dose of blood sugar. It's like an Amazon package delivery. The Amazon guy comes to the door, knock, knock. I have a glucose delivery for the cells. Cells excited. Hey, package is here. Come on, guys, time to eat. Let's go. And they go to the door, they get the package, and they bring it in, and they're excited about their delivery of glucose. And until a couple minutes later, hey, got another one. Forgot to drop this one off at the last. I got another glucose delivery. Oh, okay. Well, I got another one, guys. Sounds good. And then, hey, I know I was just here 2 hours ago, but we got another huge delivery in, and I've got 3 packages of glucose. Wow, these are really starting. It's 8 o'clock at night. I know you just ate dinner a few minutes ago, but I've got another delivery of pretzels and corn chips, and so this glucose has to go somewhere. And we also just added in ice cream, and I know, they ordered food 6 times today, and finally they're like, lock the door, cover the windows, block the door off. We don't want any more deliveries. And the cell starts to kind of swell with the amount of packages it has in it. It's congested and it's swollen. Fat cells are swollen. You may feel swollen, bloated, puffy, and the cell is literally resisting the delivery and starts to refuse packages. So now the Amazon driver's like, hey man, I'm just doing my job. And he's floating around in the bloodstream, the highway, the interstate with just a full truck, and he can't deliver. And so now this blood sugar is high in the highway of your blood vessels because it can't be delivered to the cells because the cells are saying, we don't want any more deliveries. We don't want any more deliveries. On top of that, when you eat a lot of sugar or a lot of fructose, remember it makes up 50% of those sucrose molecules, or straight fructose in the form of high fructose corn syrup or a lot of agave, you're getting a lot of fructose. There's a backdoor issue that starts to happen where the body tries to deliver packages through the back door. It's like, hey guys, listen, I know your trucks are full. You couldn't get the package through the front door. Take it around the back. They got a back door. We'll get it in. We got to get these packages delivered. The back door is that fructose starts building up. So they start stacking fructose packages in your back door porch. So you go outside and you're like, what the heck? There's packages in your garage. There's packages in the backyard. Those suckers. And they just kept handing you fructose. That's what happens in your liver. Fructose comes in, the body starts to process it, it turns it into the energy that it needs, and then it's like, we don't need any more energy, but the fructose is still coming in. What are we gonna do with this? It has to bind it to fat and form a triglyceride, which it puts triglycerides into your blood and fat in your liver, and it starts to encase it. It's like you build a little bubble or a little shed around all this fructose. I don't know, it just keeps getting delivered. I just created a storage place to store it. That's what's going on in your liver. Those two things, now the liver is pushing back against you. The backyard and the back of the house is closed. The front of the house is closed. The cells are like, I don't want any more fructose. The liver's like, I can't take any more. All the while, you still need the liver to process any toxins you come in contact with, that glyphosate from the food that you ate, the alcohol that you drank, the medication that you took. The liver still has to process and turn those chemicals into non-harmful things for your body. And it's under so much strain and pressure that it starts backing the system up. But now blood pressure starts to go up. Cholesterol numbers are off. Pressure in your body, swelling in your body, puffiness in your body starts to back up because the liver, the main filter, is now being impacted. And the cells are saying, no. And they're just storing and plumped with fat cells. This is the scenario of metabolic syndrome that millions and millions of people are in. But it gets worse. We try to use artificial ingredients, artificial sweeteners, NSAIDs, the chemicals, and that's what's bombarding. So that's number 5. So we've got carbohydrates, and then we've got forms of sugar, and we've got overload of fructose, and we get unclean proteins, and then we're not eating arguably enough fat, which wouldn't spike it. And so then we get insulin resistance, which is the fourth cause of high blood sugar because the body's refusing to deal with it. And then we throw artificial ingredients on top of that. And it's a perfect storm for blood sugar levels to skyrocket, stay elevated, A1C levels start to elevate, and the weight comes on, and the triglycerides go up, and the blood pressure goes up. And this is how it happens. Dr. Livingood, thank you for the 101 on that. I just got one question. How do I fix it? How do I get it off of there? Great question that I wish more doctors were asking. I see patient XYZ. I see the numbers and they're high. They're out of range. The A1C is up. Just take metformin. That's not the only thing to do. So, okay, but that's all they have to offer. How about we change and reverse engineer the crap that we just broke down? In fact, let's just go ahead and use that analogy. Let's remove the crap. Number 1, the C, carbs and sugars. That's the first crap to remove. High starch breads, grains, crackers, all of the fruits that are really high in fructose, that form of sugar that's hard in the liver, have to go for a period of time, including agave. So we're talking all breads, all grains, all pastas, right? We cut these out for a period of time. We cut those high carb, high sugar, crappy foods. So the C of crap is carbs and sugars. Now, the fruits that are higher, mangoes, pineapples, bananas, I love them. But for a period of time, we got to get it out. Why? Fructose has to be broken down in the liver. We're trying to heal the liver. So let's just stick with some lemon, which your liver loves, some limes, some berries, which have a lot of antioxidants that your liver loves, and just ride there. Grapefruit, great video on that, by the way. If you want to learn more about the benefits of grapefruit, I know it interacts with a few medications, but it's incredibly nutritious and it doesn't spike the insulin levels because it's less in the fructose category. So the C of crap is to cut carbs and sugar. The R of crap is rancid oils. Remember we talked about those swollen cells that are busting at the seams because of all the package deliveries? Well, what boards up the house that says block the window, board the doors, Rancid oils do that. They're the gateway to allow the hinges of the doors and the free-flowing ins and outs. When you have rancid oils going into your body, cottonseed oil, soybean oil, vegetable oil, your cells are being made out of these, and the outer ring of your cells, your garage door, your doors, your windows, it's boarding them up because it is a sticky, unnatural material of rancid oils that's into your body, congesting it. It takes 2 years to completely get it out of your system. 2 years. Think about that the next time you put in a French fry or a chicken finger for your child, or a fried cauliflower, or cheese curds, or when you think about packaged goods and crackers, I'm identifying rancid oils on those, they gotta go. That's the R of crap. The A of crap is the artificial ingredients that we talked about, the sweeteners. The NSAIDs, it's an artificial ingredient. I know you're taking it for pain relief, but it crushes the liver. It's the #1 cause of liver failure. Tylenol is #1 cause because it stresses it so much. I've had patients take a Motrin and the next day get a hole in their stomach. This type of damage from artificial ingredients, the chemicals in foods, there's well over 10,000 of them. So we need real food, the way God made it. So we're cutting the carbs and the sugars. We're cleaning up the rancid oils. The R, the A is the artificial ingredients, and the P is the processed protein, especially if you're getting way too much protein, pounding different protein powders just because we're told to eat more protein. The high protein, calorie counting diets, it doesn't matter, just get protein in. And the issue I have with this is I've joined some of these. I literally will just cloak myself, get in there and join them. They will eat anything, any form of dairy, yogurt, a protein bar, any form just to get protein in, but they come with chemicals, they come with processed soy, they come with processed grains. And so there's a lot of extras. Soy protein itself is extremely genetically modified. We need to clean up our protein. There's the crap. So your first step is cutting those carbs and those sugars, even the higher fructose fruits. We want to identify the oils. There's just a few that you can focus on. Olive, coconut, maybe palm. You go with ghee, you go with butter, you go with avocado. You just stay right there. And you only eat foods containing those, and you only cook with those. Artificial ingredients, well, if you stay out of the inside part of the store, you can avoid most of them. Stay to the outside. Get the fresher ingredients. They don't all have to be organic, but your protein probably should be high quality because that's going to come with a lot of toxicity from whatever was done to that cow, whatever was done to that chicken is going to end up in you. Removing the crap, the ultimate way to ensure it, that your blood sugar comes down. It's the easiest way of eating, and you don't have to starve yourself. You'll be shocked of how much you can eat. You just need to pick foods from the right category for a period of time. Now, typically, because A1C is measured over the previous 90 days of how your blood sugar is going up and down, I advise you to do it for at least 90 days. And when you cut all those ingredients out, you're still enjoying lots of good foods. There's tons of recipes that are still approved. You're just cutting some of those out. Maybe skip a few meals in there. That's the easiest meal plan you could. Skip some breakfast, skip a dinner, skip a whole day, throw a little of that in. That's the easiest way to remove the crap, but it pulls down that blood sugar and it helps repair insulin resistance. And 90 days worth really gives you a good picture for that A1C level to be impacted, let alone your triglycerides. Now, while you're healing there, sometimes cholesterol levels will go up. Why? All those cells are boarded up. So it starts ripping off all the boards from the windows, from the doors, and it's tearing that down and getting those bad fats out of there and dealing with the healing of the cells that are just full of packages and boarded up and refusing deliveries. It's got to go heal all that. And all of those linings of those cells are made out of cholesterol. So you could see those changes. So don't panic with it. You're making the right decision. You're not eating crap. If you just don't eat crap, the scale doesn't move and your cholesterol numbers go up, guess what? You're still doing an incredible job because you cut the crap out of your diet. So don't focus too much on those, but I do like a measurement. I do like the accountability of somewhere you're starting. Now, I think the best one you could possibly do is measuring your inches and measure your arms, your biceps, your thighs, your waist. If the inches are moving, you're removing the crap, you're going the right direction. Your liver is getting smaller. Your fat cells and those swollen cells are getting smaller. It's the inches that you want, but it doesn't happen overnight. Give it at least 90 days to help your liver, to unlock that, to help those cells shrink, to really help you to start resetting all of these boarded up windows and really begin to heal those cells and get the garbage out and properly be able to get excited again about a delivery from the sugar man, from the Amazon man into your cells. Have a healthy relationship with sugar without it tanking your blood sugar or your A1C levels. You can also dig in further on our other videos about cleansing the liver and giving it the attention it needs since it's the hardest working organ in the body.